This is Toledo Symphony Lab, a behind-the-scenes look at the world of classical music from WGTE Public Media and your Toledo Symphony. I'm Brad Cresswell, and joining me today are the Toledo Symphony's president and CEO, Zach Vassar. We also have the TSO's marketing director, Felicia Canny, and a couple of special guests today. We're joined by conductor Giordano Bellincampi, who is a longtime associate of the Toledo Symphony. He's guest conducted many times, is a Toledo favorite, and he is here with us today. Welcome, Maestro.
Thank you very much.
I also want to mention that we have another guest, Octavian Moldovean, who is a doctoral student at Bowling Green State University, and he didn't know he was going to be on the podcast today, but he's here. He's my intern, actually, at WGTE, so welcome, Octavian.
Good morning, and thank you.
Glad to have you here. You know, a couple of weeks ago, we had the intern from Toledo Symphony come join us, so now it's equal time, right? We have
it's only fair.
WGTE intern.
We love interns.
Well, today we're going to have a conversation mostly about Maestro Bellincampi and his association with Toledo Symphony, because it's kind of fun to hear a little bit from the outside, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we tend to get into a little bubble sometimes. It's nice to have somebody come from the outside and talk a little bit about what it is that we do here. And before we do that, Maestro, I want to talk a little bit about you and get your background, because you have a very Italian name, about as Italian as it gets,
yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. But you grew up in Denmark? You're Danish?
Yes. Well, no, I am Italian, but
okay.
I've lived many years in Denmark, studied there, and my wife is Danish, and my family lives there. So,
but you were born in Italy?
Yes, I'm from Rome. Yes,
were you raised in Italy?
Yes.
Okay, big soccer fan?
Of course.
Yeah. You and Octavian, I know that he's from Romania.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
So, so you then, when did you end up in Denmark? What was your path to go there?
My mother was a university professor, and she teaches for some years at the University of Copenhagen, Italian. So this is why we moved there. And I was 11, 12 years old. Then after her years there were finished, she moved back to Rome, and I stayed.
Yeah.
So
why did you stay? Was there?
Well, it was partly because of the music. Actually, I had started playing. I'm an original trombone player. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Started playing.
So many trombones.
What is it about trombone players and conductors? Because Alain Trudel is a trombonist. In fact, hang on. I want you to tell me what you think of this. Ready? That is one of the great trombonists of the world playing the sad trombone for us, Alain Trudel.
The sad trombone, that's what it's called.
I'm very disappointed you didn't bring your trombone.
Yeah, well, I mean, no comparison. Trudel is an incredible virtuoso on the trombone.
So you're telling me that your sad trombone wouldn't sound nearly that good?
No.
But that would
be happier. It would be
he recorded two of them for us. So it's hard to tell which of those two is more sad, right?
Yeah,
the first.
Okay.
One, yeah.
Well, next time you're here, I expect the trombone. We're going to have a little duel of the trombones.
Okay.
He's never coming back.
That's it. Nice knowing you. So you're in Denmark. You decided to stay in Denmark as a trombonist. Now, were you playing in an orchestra there?
Yes, I was. I was studying at the time. I was studying at the Royal Academy in Copenhagen, and then I started playing in orchestra. Yeah, played in the opera orchestra, the Royal Danish Orchestra, and then I played in other orchestras in Scandinavia. We got family, and then when I was 30 years old, I started conducting full time. I had been conducting a bit earlier as well, but
what made you want to start conducting?
Well, honestly, I have always wanted to be a conductor, but I really enjoyed the orchestra playing as well. So I didn't plan a career as a conductor at all. It's something that simply happened slowly. A bit tough call, especially because I started relatively late. I was 30 years old. We already had 3 children. Going from a full-time orchestra job to a freelance life as a conductor was not the easiest call.
Hard to take that kind of a risk.
Yeah.
You have a young family.
But it seems to go okay. So,
well, I think you've done okay.
Yeah.
Congratulations. So, do you remember your first professional conducting engagement? And
Of
what
course.
that was?
Oh, yeah, of course,
What was
yeah.
it?
It was with the regional orchestra in Denmark, the Odense Symphony Orchestra, and actually I got the job because one of my studying mates as a trombonist, he had won the position as principal trombone there, and he was supposed to play at a matinee this trombone concerto by Launi Grøndal, which Alain Trudel surely will know, and trombone players know, but no one else knows it. So he was very nervous that the orchestra would give him a not so experienced conductor that might not know the trombone concerto at all and would not be prepared. So he proposed, I know this guy, he's a trombone player, but he's also a conductor.
So basically this was the trombone mafia that got you into the conducting business.
But what he didn't tell me was that this matinee concert also included the first movement of the second piano concerto by Rachmaninoff. It included the first movement of the Carl Nielsen Third Symphony, and
but no trombone, so he didn't care, right?
And Beethoven Egmont or something.
Wow.
So so I started the rehearsal with the orchestra, and in the intermission they asked if I could do 2 subscription concerts the next season.
Wow.
And that was it.
That's
really
great.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your introduction to Toledo. Now, is anybody here, aside from Giordano, were you privy to the first time when he came here to the symphony?
I'm trying to remember what the first concert was you did here. Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember that must be like 12 years ago or something.
Yeah.
And I'm in doubt whether it was actually the Berlioz Te Deum was the first time I was here. I'm not completely sure. But I remember that it was Bob Bell who had contacted my agent in London at that time, and I honestly I didn't know about the Toledo Symphony, I have to admit, but they told me you should go. It's a very, very fine orchestra, very good environment. Bob is a great man, knows about music. You can trust his programming, and it was all true. It was really, really nice to be.
You didn't show up at here and you were like, "What have I gotten myself into?"
What country am I in?
Not at all, not at all. I remember the first time entering the peristyle. That was really something, because it is such a beautiful room.
Yeah.
Really, really beautiful room.
It's a fantastic space.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's really interesting. Zach, you want to say something?
You said that the reputation was that it's a good environment. What does that mean?
Well, you know, as a conductor, we travel around as guests in many orchestras or opera houses, and there are many parameters you have when you have to choose what to do with your time. Mm-hmm. Of course, there is, for some people, like, prestige of only performing in big cities. That is for some colleagues really important. For me, it is more about can I trust the fact that we are all really wanting to make music together. Mm-hmm. This is for me a vital thing. The trust between the artistic management, the organization, the musicians, and me as a guest is vital for having a good time as a conductor. I spend around 250 days a year in hotel rooms.
Yeah.
So you want to feel relatively happy doing so.
Yeah.
That makes complete sense.
Well, you have to have the temperament to be able to do that. The traveling, you like to travel, I take it.
Not particularly, but it's part of the job. I mean, it is a big part of the job.
Do you have any travel horror stories you want to tell us about? Like,
they're very boring,
They're boring.
I mean, there's nothing interesting.
Sitting on an airplane,
exactly, and spending nights in airports waiting. That's
wow.
I mean, I was actually here when there was the ash issue over Iceland, where they closed down.
Right.
They closed down the plane. That was actually quite interesting, because I took a quick decision from Detroit and flew to New York. Although I was, in theory, I was going to Europe, but there were no flights. I thought it might be easier for me to go to New York.
Yeah,
you're at least going in the right
direction.
Closer.
Yeah. And honestly, I thought if I have to stay here for 2 weeks, then at least I can just check into a hotel in New York.
Well, you didn't want to stay in Toledo for 2 weeks?
Well, I mean, it would be nicer to go to the Met and to the New York Phil every second day,
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I have to admit.
I'm gonna I'm going to write that down. There's a check mark right there.
But but actually I only had to wait a couple of days, and then I found a flight to Rome.
Let's see. MoMA or Mud Hens, one or the other.
I've never been at a Mud Hens.
Mud Hens?
Yeah.
You haven't been?
No.
Wow, Zach.
We don't do the concerts typically in this season, so it's really right now that you would overlap.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're in town.
Okay.
Yeah.
So over these years, you've gotten to know many of the musicians in our orchestra, and one of the most amazing things is that you know them by name. So you can speak to them as colleagues. What memories come out of our orchestra when you think of Toledo and the personalities in our orchestra?
Well, once again, I was impressed from the very first visit about the professionality, but also the dedication. That is really, really important. The job of a conductor, as a guest conductor, is that you get an instrument that is well tuned, as it was here with the job that the orchestra was doing every day with the music director. But then you you find a way of playing this instrument, bringing new ideas, but also taking new ideas from the orchestra. And I found this fantastic collaboration and dedication, and this has remained, probably even improved over time. Some changes, natural changes, have been in the orchestra, in the personnel, but also these roots of the orchestra, which seem so healthy and solid, and it is really a pleasure to be here. It's a friendly environment, but it's also a very sparkling environment, in the sense that they want to improve, and they want to make music at every rehearsal. That is inspiring.
Talk a little bit about the audience, because we talk about you as a Toledo favorite, and I think audiences of the symphony are very familiar with you and with your work, and they're comfortable and they enjoy seeing you with the symphony. How do you feel your relationship with the audience has grown over the last 12 years?
That has grown a lot. First of all, it is difficult to describe what happens as a conductor, because I turn my back to the audience as soon as we start. So
no offense.
Yeah. So I don't have that kind of direct eyes on them, but you can always sense an audience.
Yeah.
And at the peristyle, the atmosphere is always very particular. In the later years, with the video screens, it has changed. Probably for me, it was actually quite scaring the first time, because they are very, very big and they're very close to the stage.
They're very close.
So I could,
you know what that is? It's like when you turn on your camera to take a picture and the selfie camera is on, you see yourself up close.
Yes, and actually seeing myself conduct so close, so big, simultaneously while I'm doing is a bit scaring. I mean, we are used to it from big outdoor concerts, but then generally they are a bit more far away, so I can't see it. And as a conductor, you're always very focused on does the gesture mean really something for the musicians? Are you giving something that is useful? And so we're always very critical about our behavior on stage. And then you see yourself and think, oh, why am I doing this? It's totally superfluous. I could do something.
Self-conscious.
I could have done this in one gesture.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, take it easy.
But then, I mean, do you ever find then you're just like kind of glued to the screen watching what you're doing?
No.
Look at that handsome man up there.
No.
I could watch him all day.
Actually, I really try not to. No.
I think we can develop glasses for you that
Yeah.
could just hide a little bit.
Like
on
little
the
blinders
side.
on the sides.
Yes.
Yeah.
Giordano, you're talking about gestures. One of my favorite things about watching you conduct is that you don't use a baton. Tell us about that.
Well, I'm a little bit too tall to be a conductor.
Wait.
How tall are you? How tall are you?
I don't know in your measures. I'm 185 meters. So
Someone.
Me too.
yeah, my arms are really long, and that is actually technically, apart from the laugh, it's not an advantage, because what we want to do is actually to keep everything very, very close into a small
So you're afraid you're going to poke somebody's eye out?
No,
then with that baton?
no. But I used the first years I used the baton, but I discovered that it was a bit easier for me to keep the gesture a little more limited, and also to keep them a little closer to the body.
Do you use your fingers? Like
Yes, yes, and then of course I have developed more of a molding style. One could say about sound, which is very similar to what you use as a chorus conductor. A lot of chorus conductors do that. And I found that for me it works quite well, especially with string sound. Something where you can develop a way of transmitting without words to the strings which kind of sound we should develop. Yeah. So it's but. The later years I've been teaching postgraduate conductors, and it's really interesting to see that every person has his or her own style.
Sure.
And it doesn't really matter. There are some basic things about conducting technique that you need to do, like the downbeat has to go down. That is seems simple, but there are many colleagues that don't do that.
I've seen some conductors that
I think of a few conductors that we need to have that conversation.
haven't quite mastered
right?
it. Yeah.
But I have a very strict rule when to my students. I tell them you can do pretty much what you want in between, but the downbeat has to go down because please remember, big downbeat, big paycheck. Yeah. So that's nice. That's kind of and they understand that. Yeah. So,
but there are no small downbeats, only small paychecks. Right?
Not big enough.
Yeah. I want to go around and ask each of us here a question, because we've got, looking at our point of view, Zach is an administrator, and before that somebody who was basically an audience member, maybe an elevated level
I was a
audience member.
groupie.
A groupie. That's the word I was looking for. Octavian is a flute player. I was a singer for many years. You play the oboe.
Yes.
Right?
And the kazoo.
And the kazoo.
Gosh. That keeps coming up.
Yeah, the question is this: what makes a good conductor? Okay. So I'll start from the standpoint of somebody who sang, was a singer. Every conductor is different. What makes a good conductor? I would say communication, the ability to feel like they have your back, right? And that you can look at somebody if you need help and they're right there for you. Okay, so communication for me, that's key. What would you say, Octavian, as a flute player?
Well, as an orchestral player, I think for me the most important things would be inspiration, to be inspired by the person who's sitting in front of the orchestra, and to be easy to follow. Or
that's the downbeat thing.
Yep. So a matter of communication, like you said. Yeah.
What do you think, Felicia? You want to?
Yes.
I'm saving Giordano for the end. Right.
Well, I think a good conductor definitely has leadership skills and a bigger vision for what the piece should sound like. It should be in his or her head, and then he helps guide the orchestra musicians to that end. And I think that without that, it's, music loses that inspiration quality that you were talking about.
That's great. Zach, you're up.
So we finished this music director search last year. So we got to sit with a lot of different music director candidates. And there was one who said something very interesting about the rehearsal techniques. And he said, for me, I really have to understand which doors to open and which ones to leave closed as I'm rehearsing the orchestra. And
is that like pick your battles kind of thing? Or
of course, I would like to get to this point, but I know that rehearsal time is limited, and I can only open so many doors. And some doors, if we open, we might not be able to close again. So, for that conductor, the opportunity to walk through the hallway very quickly and see which doors to open and which ones to leave closed, to make the most maximal impression in the most efficient time, to make the performance really excellent. And I thought that, from a leadership standpoint or a metaphor for leadership, whenever you're working with the team for the first time, you have to make those assessments almost on the fly. And I think it's a nice way to think of what the conductor's role is, because by the time we get to the concert, the doors have already been opened and closed. So the hard work has been done. And for the audience, we don't really know what the preparation is. We don't need to know, but that's what the conductor's really there for.
And when you're assessing somebody like that, then the question becomes, well, do you have that skill?
Right. And I've definitely seen some maestros open up doors that they should never have opened.
Do they walk through? That's the point. Take everybody with them.
That's right.
Okay, well, we saved the best for last.
Well, of course, it is really complex. I would like to go back to your question, which was what makes a really good conductor.
Yeah.
Because what we're talking about here are all really, really important things, but this is very much about how the conductor acts, which is not, which is only a reflection of what is before that. You said something about the vision, about having the music in the head, but I think that of course you need to have at least many of these skills that we are talking about now. Even if I could actually mention some of the biggest conductors of all times that do lack some of those skills.
Sure.
But the reason why they are so incredibly great is that what is behind that is a true and deep understanding of the essence, of the fire of the music. It's like the ability to be able to study a score properly is actually probably the most important thing. So what is really the need of performing the score? If you start by that and have at least some of those skills, you can go quite a long way with an orchestra.
Let's talk about some of your favorite scores, right? I mean, you're talking about studying a score, knowing why you want to do it, why it's appropriate, right, for any particular concert. Talk a little bit about some of your favorite pieces. I know a lot of people will always say, "Oh, I don't have any favorites. I like what I'm doing at the time." But I want to put you on the spot.
Yes.
I know Felicia said that at one point we were talking about church windows, I think, and she said, "Oh, Respighi, he loves Respighi." Right? Can you talk about your favorites?
So music is a wonderful thing. There are so many priorities in music, so many things that we can get out of music. Respighi is a wonderful, colorful composer.
Yeah.
But I would say, although it's extremely fun to conduct and it's extremely fun to play and very fun to listen to, it would not rank on the top 5 of my scores. I mean, when it comes to studying scores, I really enjoy studying very, very simple scores, like an early Haydn symphony.
Really?
Or Bach St. Matthew Passion.
Well, that's not necessarily a simple score.
No. I mean, of course, not simple. It's actually because this is really complicated from a musical point of view, but simple in the sense that there are not so many notes or so many instruments like you have in Respighi, which is a full Technicolor set. Yeah. So I generally travel with pocket scores of at least a couple of Beethoven and Brahms symphonies with me, although they are quite well in the head. But just looking at Beethoven First Symphony once in a while makes me really happy. And I mean, for being a conductor, it is vital to have the need to go into this kind of scores all the time. And remind yourself of why it's important to play it.
Giordano, you're making me think of a statement you made last year. You were talking about how that this season you would be coming back on 4 concerts because we didn't yet have our artistic leadership intact, and you were going to be acting as kind of our anchor conductor for the year. But you had said at that point that this gave you an opportunity to perform pieces that were more appropriate for a music director as opposed to a guest conductor.
Yes.
Can you explain what you meant by that?
Well, I am, and I've been music director of several orchestras, so I know that there is kind of a way of structuring the way you train your orchestra to play, and there are parts of the repertoire, the central German repertoire that is what really defines the sound of an orchestra. So the way that an orchestra plays Beethoven, Mendelssohn, Brahms, for instance, Schumann partly, is really what defines the way that how the orchestra goes to Mahler and Bruckner or Shostakovich or Tchaikovsky, whatever. So generally, with my orchestras, I focus quite a lot on that repertoire, and I'm quite careful about giving guest conductors access to a Brahms symphony, for instance. I have to be really, it's both about what the orchestra can take at the moment, and also what I know that conductor will bring. Sometimes, of course, it's really, really refreshing. It's not like no one is allowed to conduct Brahms with my orchestras, but we have to be a little careful, because it really defines the orchestra. And then when they have a new music director, they can go in another direction. So I've been really, really pleased with this season, having the opportunity to work on Beethoven and Brahms and Mendelssohn and Mahler.
Yeah, but not after this. That's all you got, right?
Exactly.
Well, no, actually,
I believe so.
Next year you'll be back for a program of Mendelssohn and Beethoven.
I know.
And
now we know your
Cherubini.
And Cherubini. That's
Cherubini,
it.
yeah.
Cherubini. Are
Yes.
you doing a symphony? Or?
No, we're doing the Medea overture before the one of the piano concertos, because Beethoven was a great fan of Cherubini.
Oh, he loved him.
Exactly.
Cherubini, he thought, was the second best composer,
Exactly.
right?
After himself, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I use it quite often as a pairing to Beethoven.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, you've recorded a lot of Nielsen, and I haven't heard you mention Nielsen. Have you done Nielsen here?
I think we did maybe second or third symphonies some years ago, but I'm in doubt, honestly.
Okay.
Those symphonies are amazing.
Fantastic music.
Yeah.
Fantastic music. If you can sell the tickets, I'm happy to come. No, yeah. I'm just saying I really, really love to conduct Nielsen, and I do it a lot, and I try to be a good advocate for Nielsen abroad. I also understand, because as I said, I have some experience as music director, that there has to be a balance, and audiences. I have experienced everywhere I've conducted Nielsen that audiences who are there, they really, really love it. And they said, we never heard of this composer before, but this was fantastic.
But they leave loving it,
yes,
as opposed to going
yes.
to.
Yeah. But the problem is that they can get a bit scared by the fact, there's a symphony of a composer we don't know.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But
if you do it
it would be great.
Would be great. Well, that's about all the time that we have. Thanks so much to Giordano Bellincampi for spending time with us today. And we look forward to having you back in Toledo, as always.
I started to say it earlier. I'd just like to thank you for giving us this year, and the great sacrifice that you've made to come across the pond as many times as you have to help us through this transitionary year. It's been a pleasure working with you, Giordano.
Thank you, Zach.
Thank you.
Toledo Symphony Lab is generously underwritten by a gift from the estate of Barbara Garwood and is a production of WGTE Public Media in collaboration with our sponsor, the Toledo Symphony. You can download episodes of this program as a podcast by going to our website at wgte.org/lab or by subscribing to us on Apple Podcasts or Google Play. My thanks, of course, to Maestro Giordano Bellincampi, also to our WGTE intern, Octavian Moldovean, and to Zach Vassar, CEO and President of Toledo Symphony, and to Felicia Canny, the Marketing Director of TSO. I'm Brad Cresswell. You've been listening to Toledo Symphony Lab here on FM 91.